going very slow. All right, so last class, I believe this is where we stopped. So we were talking about reinforcement, and reinforcement, anything that increases a behavior either through the removal of something unpleasant or the addition of something pleasant. If we want behavior to be learned and learned relatively quickly and then stick around after being learned, we want to start with using continuous reinforcement, meaning they are getting the reinforcement every time they display the behavior. Acquisition comes fast because they quickly learn to make the association. But then once they have learned the behavior, we want to make sure that the behavior sticks around by using partial reinforcement. Okay? Meaning, once they have learned the behavior, we don't want to reinforce the behavior every time, because then once you stop, it goes extinct really fast. Now we just want to give the reinforcement every once in a while, right? Because that's more resistant to extinction. Now there are four different, these are what are called schedules of reinforcement. When do we get the reward? Okay, so the schedules of partial reinforcement, they like using these on FRQs. Okay, so schedules can either be fixed, meaning the reinforcement comes at a predictable time, right? Or they can be variable, meaning the reinforcement comes at a random time. They can be ratio, meaning it's based off of a certain number of a behavior, so whoever it is in control, or they can be interval, which means the reward is based off of a length of time passing. So the person or the animal does not actually have control over when they get the reward. We got four of them. Okay? A fixed ratio schedule is when you get the reward comes after a set predictable numbers of the target behavior. Okay? So with a fixed ratio schedule, you know when reinforcement is going to come. Okay? This is like a punch card. Or if you get paid after making a certain amount of something. All right, so you can see here on a fixed ratio schedule, all right, it has a very high response rate, but any fixed schedule is going to go extinct faster than a variable schedule, because once the reward goes away, they will just stop displaying the behavior because they know when the reward is supposed to come. Come on. Hello, what's going on? There we go. All right. A variable ratio schedule, it means that when the reward comes, varies. It comes after an unpredictable amount of whatever the target behavior is. Okay? It comes after an unpredictable, or more often than not, an average. So if a chicken or a pigeon has to peck a certain spot, and maybe after 5 pecks they get a reward, and then after 4, and then after 7, and then after 6, and so on and so forth. So they can generally anticipate when the reward is going to come, but you don't know for sure. Variable ratio schedules are the least susceptible to extinction. Variable schedules take a little bit longer to teach because it's not as predictable, but once they are learned, they don't go extinct. Think about if you're shooting a basketball. Just because you miss 8 in a row, You don't just give up. You don't stop because you might make the ninth one. The reward might come on the ninth one. All right, interval schedules. Fixed interval, where the reward comes after a set length of time. Okay, interval schedules not as effective as ratio ones because you're not in control. All right, this one has the response rate for a fixed interval schedule is very interesting. Because think about it, like it says it doesn't, not a steady response rate. Cooking something in the oven is a fixed interval schedule, right? When you first put it in there, you're not going to check it. If it's going to be in there for an hour, you're not going to check it after 5 minutes, but then you might start checking it at 30, and then 40, and then 45, and then 48, and then 51, and so on and so forth. Because you know when the reward is going to come, so you behave, but you have no control over the time, right? You just know when it's going to come. It's like, paychecks. Like monthly paychecks are fixed interval. Right? And then finally, a variable interval schedule. Variable interval, you don't know, it's based on a length of time, okay? But you don't know when it's actually going to come. Texting somebody. Okay, texting somebody, we all kind of know. We all have friends. Most of our friends, you can guess how long it's going to take them to text you back. Some of we all have friends that it takes 4 hours for them to text back after every text, and some friends where they are just on it right away. All right, so you might if I text somebody and I'm waiting for a text back, you're going to check your phone maybe every 5 minutes or so. All right, so. It is, but you don't know exactly when they're going to text you back. You have no control over it. All right? So, any questions there? All right. Different types of reinforcers. Primary reinforcers. Things that we are innately reinforcing. Okay, meaning things that are just biologically reinforcing. Food, water, sex, sleep, warmth, all those things are innately reinforcing. Secondary reinforcers or conditioned reinforcers are things that we learn are reinforcing. Okay, and these primary reinforcers are basically the same for everyone because they're biological. Secondary reinforcers are different for everyone, right? Connor may respond really well to praise, right? Saying, good job, Connor. He's like, man, that really motivates me. That gets me going. But Elizabeth might not. Okay, so what is reinforcing for one person is not always going to be reinforcing for the next person.
The chicken thing. Oh, run.
These are public.
Immediate versus delayed reinforcement. Well, I'm not even going to go over that. It's pretty straightforward. All right, punishment. Okay, punishment is anything that is meant to decrease. It is a consequence following a behavior that is meant to decrease a behavior. Positive punishment. All right, so again, we know positive doesn't mean good. Positive in this means the addition of something. So with positive punishment, if punishment decreases behavior, it's going to be the addition of something unpleasant, like talking back and getting slapped. Okay, it's the addition of the slap. Negative punishment is, the negative means taken away. So this is the removal of something that you like. You sneak out of the house, you get your phone taken away. Okay? You're slamming your door in your bedroom, so your parents take your door away from you. Okay? I've heard of that before. Okay? Also, negative punishment generally more effective than positive punishment because of the loss of something good. But punishment in general does not really work to change behavior a whole lot. If it does, it has to be immediate, and it has to be relatively harsh for it to be effective. Okay? All right, why does this keep doing this? So terminology is the same. All right, last little things. Other theories of learning. Okay, observational learning. This is part of something that we've talked about quite a bit in the second half of this class, the social cognitive perspective. Observational learning, simply learning by watching somebody else. Why is my freaking clicker not working? Okay. This is also called modeling. Modeling is watching and imitating somebody else's behavior. Famous experiment with this, Albert Bandura and the Bobo doll, right, with the little kids watching an adult beat the crap out of that doll. The ones that saw it be aggressive towards the doll also modeled the aggressive behavior towards the doll. Okay. Sorry. I don't know why my pen or my clicker is not working. Latent learning. They really like asking about latent learning on FRQs. Latent is hidden. Latent learning is learning that we have that we don't realize that we have it until there is a reason for us to use it. A lot of the stuff that comes in, we just kind of store away, and then we're like, hey, I'll save that, maybe I'll need it at some point. And so this is learning that is not apparent until there is some sort of reward for you to pull it out. Famous example of this, the one that you would need to know, the cognitive maps. Cognitive maps, whatever environment we are in, we just automatically form a map of it. Our brain that's a part of automatic processing. They did the experiment with rats, where they had rats in a maze, and the rats just wandered around the maze without any reward. And then finally, they gave the rats a reward at the end of the maze, and they were actually able to find their way through the maze faster than other rats were, which shows that they had formed a mental map of their environment. All right, and then insight learning. Insight learning is just literally when the answer just comes to you about something. All right, think about when you're trying to think of like the name of a song, and it comes to you out of the blue. That's insight learning.
Does it have anything to do with like previous connections? Like if you say, like if you can't think of the song name and then somebody says like blues and you're like, oh, the song.
Oh yeah, there's a lot that priming goes into it a lot.
Oh, okay.
And it's like insight learning a lot of times is just like, you might already have those, like trying to remember something. You might have what are called memory traces. But we just can't, there might be some sort of retrieval failure or whatnot, and then something triggers it, so. Yep. And I believe that is it. Okay, so any questions there?